Welcome back. You're watching a special edition of The Front Row, where we are focusing on alcohol control measures amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Just before we went for the break, we were, of course, discussing a lot of issues touching on enforcement. I want to rope in Dora Obuoka, who is joining us via Zoom, just to get her perspectives around matters to do with rehabilitation centers. And of course, what would be your prescription for NACADA, for CARA, and of course the counties, looking at the state of those that have been able to recover from alcoholism?
Thank you so much. So actually currently I am working part-time at a rehabilitation center. It's called Teen Challenge Kenya, and it is actually the rehabilitation program that I went through. It is a one-year program that gave me it set the stage for my freedom. And so I'm not sure if the other rehabs are still running, but I'm sure that this is a time where rehabs are needed more than ever. Just the ability to come away from your environment is powerful in and of itself. Can you please expound exactly?
All right. You've actually answered my question, and I really thank you for your input on this debate tonight. Let me open it up to Mr. Okioma around rehabilitation programs that NACADA has in place. And of course, talk to us about the fund.
Thank you very much, Agina. Let me say that, like I mentioned earlier, the issue of licensing and drug control has been devolved to counties, and therefore a lot of the things we are talking about should really be in the domain of county governments. The national government, I think, up to so far has very, very few public-owned rehabilitation facilities. What we are doing as an authority is we are working very, very closely with the county government to try and enhance access to rehabilitation services by, supporting the counties and working together as partners to be able to put up public-owned rehabilitation facilities. Currently, I think about 90% of thereabout of rehabs in the country are privately owned, commercial, and therefore expensive and inaccessible to majority of those who need these services. And therefore, our emphasis currently is to try and work jointly with the county governments to try and increase the number of public-owned facilities. We have, I think, currently worked with about 10 counties, and Nyeri is one of the example of the counties where we have worked. They have now a very, very, very nice rehab. We have worked with Keyo Marakwet, we have worked with Kwale, we have worked with Kisumu, we have worked with Kakamega, we have worked with, a number of other counties, about 10 of them. I may not be able to mention all of them. And really the purpose is to make sure that we have more publicly owned rehabilitation facilities so that they can be able to enhance accessibility to those who need these services at a cheaper cost. Our mandate at the moment is basically to try and inspect and license and accredit those facilities that are available, because that's our mandate. And all these privately owned facilities, we regularly inspect them to ensure that they maintain certain basic minimum standards.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Okioma. You've sufficiently addressed this issue. We'll be bringing in Mr. Ocheng. Before we go to you, Mr. Ocheng from CARA, I understand we have a caller on the line. Just introduce yourself, tell us where you're calling from, and of course, raise your question with a specific panelist.
Go to you, Mr. Chair. Understand we have on the line. Introduce yourself, tell us where you're calling, and raise your question.
No, mine.
Can we take him? Or we'll be getting back to our caller who is joining us shortly. But gentlemen, my next area of focus, of course, touches heavily on the issue of time. When you look at the Alcoholic Drinks Control Act of 2010, it stipulates the time with which bars and liquor stores should open. Is this being abided to in relation to the pandemic, as you've all agreed that there's been a surge in the demand for alcohol? I just want to get the thoughts from Mr. Cheng. Okay, let me open it up to Mr. Muya from Perak.
Thank you again. I'm having some hearing challenges a bit, but if you allow me to comment on the matter that was just before about rehabilitation.
Yes.
I want to mention that there is a special fund that has been created by the Alcoholic Drinks Control and Licensing Board in every county. And some of the matters this fund is supposed to address is matters of rehabilitation and awareness of all alcohol-related matters. Let it be known to all the viewers that all the money that we pay to the county authorities in terms of liquor licenses, this money does not go to the county fund. It goes to the Alcoholic Control Fund. But on my part and on my members, I have never seen any activity by the county on participating in any way in rehabilitating or raising alcohol awareness matters.
All right. Mr. Gashishio, what do you have to say about this?
Thank you very much. I concur with Mr. Muya that that fund is allowed for in the Act, but it has to be implemented, because before implementation, there are certain conditions that must be fulfilled. And I hope that the CEO Nakada, when we had a meeting last time, this was one of the issues we were discussing, how we are going to implement that fund so that it is targeted to deal with the specific problems. So on us, that is an issue that is on the desk. But before we leave this point of rehabilitation, that is where the elephant in the room really is in this country. If we have to address this country, this issue, we have to relook as a nation. And though my former boss, Mr. Ukioma, is running away from this problem, the issue of policy guidelines, and I want to underline the issue of policy guidelines, because we are now building rehab centers. That is the hardware. Where is the software for this issue? Where are the value for the nation so that they can be implemented through those rehab systems? I think that is where we are remaining. And for us, that issue we agree. Once we have come up with a proper rehabilitation framework, a strategy, with the proper equipment at the centers, and the proper training of skills, because rehabilitation also requires a lot of skills, because this is also a psychosocial issue. That is where we want to go, and then come up with a proper rehabilitation strategic plan that addresses the socio-cultural value system of community. I think that with that one, we should be able to use that fund to now address the issue. You remember there was a county, and I don't want to name this, where people started implementing alcoholic rehabilitation programs by paying people certain amount of money. And you know, the end result was everybody became a drunkard. So the issue here, and this is for my friend, my boss, Mr. Okioma, let us have clear value strategic policy. Then we implement it in the county. And
All
then
right.
we use it to go to the people. And that one should work as a culture, so that you look at some countries like Netherlands. They don't have people in jails. The Scandinavian countries, they have been able to use, to culturalize value systems that start from children and it comes up. I think that's where we need to go. So
Thank
that
you.
people are not mesmerized by beer. Why is everybody taking beer? What is so much about, so that we run away from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kioma, I can see you're itching to respond as you also merge that with the issue around people observing opening hours and curfew hours.
I want to agree with my friend Muya that actually the Constitution devolved this function to the counties. They are the ones licensing, and through licensing they generate the resources. And the question is, where do these resources go? Our engagement with the county government is that there should be a ring-fenced fund to address all these issues of public education and advocacy, to address issues of rehabilitation, to address issues of research, with the local specifications in mind. And I have actually seen a bit of a positive response from some counties. But you will find, and I want to say, in the area where I have interacted with them, they have actually ring-fenced this fund, and it's basically the one they have used to do the rehab with a little of our support. And they are even doing an empowerment center for those people who go through their rehabs.
Okay.
This is what we really want to see out there being done by the counties. But let me say that when you talk about the culture, I think the culture of the people in Nyeri will be best, transformed by the leadership within that context.
All right.
For us as a national authority, what we are saying in our policy is that we should be a working nation and not a drinking nation. And that is why we have a challenge with some counties which start, there are counties which have licensed the drinking of or opening of bars from 8 o'clock in the morning. And one will ask, what will be the reason for opening a bar at 8 o'clock in the morning? When will people be working? So I think the policy is, let us focus on work. The drinking can come after work.
All right. And still staying with you, Mr. Okioma, you raised a very pertinent issue of online sale of alcohol. How do we also create an environment that does not stifle businesses? At the same time, we ensure that this alcohol is getting to people who are adults and they know what they're doing. Have you been having conversations around this as NACADA?
Actually, I must say that this is one area that is a really headache for us is NACADA, because you see, if we had, some liquor shop owned by a Gina somewhere in Nairobi West, mm-hmm. We will go there, inspect, and we will confirm that he has the kind of safe alcohol, because it is certified by the certifying authorities. But when you have some virtual or e-market somewhere where somebody sits somewhere and makes a call and alcohol is delivered, one, you don't know where it's coming from. You cannot vouch for its safety. Mm. Two, is that you don't know who is ordering this drink. It would be some 5-year, 10-year-old. So the challenge around alcohol is that, alcohol, like drugs, it is something that is controlled. It is, you take alcohol because you are of age. You take alcohol certain times, not all the time. Mm-hmm. if you are ordering bread, nobody bothers what time you are ordering it and who is getting it, because even a child, if is able to take it, it's fine.
Okay.
But alcohol is controlled. So if it is controlled, it becomes so difficult to transact it online, because then these issues are not addressed. And that is where our concern is.
All right. And Mr. Cheng, if we have you, I'd also want to just speak your thoughts as well on this issue. Stoll will be getting back to him shortly. But to Mr. Muya, what should we pursue moving forward, even as we come to the tail end of this discussion, in regards to how do we draw the line and say, of course, the containment measures continue to remain enforced. At the same time, how do we cushion the businesses?
If legitimate is respected by the authorities, we can come up with a very proper arrangement that will not allow for any leakage, and more so about leakage to the underage. On my part, I would say our industry, we are bars and restaurants. We don't only sell alcohol, we sell food, we sell entertainment. In other words, we sell a total package of a service that should be encouraged, because that's where thousands and thousands of our youth get employment. That's where our farmers, both agricultural and livestock, sell their products. This is the industry that generates a lot of taxes for the government. So I'm calling for the support of legitimate business from the government. We are the most misunderstood business sector in Kenya, because we are always treated like we are doing an illegal business, whereas we are not. And for the 2 months that we have been out, it has come out openly that these problems belong to the community. They are community problems. They don't necessarily come from bars.
All right, thank you, sir. Well, we want to wrap up this discussion tonight by just giving all of our panelists a minute to give their closing remarks. Dora, out of this COVID-19, what lessons are you taking home with, and what should we consider moving forward?
Let me just address the rehab conversation really quick. As we talk about the opening of new rehabs under the counties, I would love for us to focus on quality as opposed to quantity. What actually will be the program in these rehabs, so that we do not find that people are going to rehabs, but they are coming out worse than before. Currently, right now, if you look at the statistics of those going to rehab, it is very depressing, considering the fact that a majority go back to substance abuse. So kindly let us focus on the quality of the rehab, what is being taught, what long-term processes are put in place in order to help people stand.
Thank you so much, Dora. And finally, Mr. Kioma, because of time, we'll just take your closing remarks in under a minute. What do you see post-COVID?
During post-COVID, let's respect the government guidelines, and we'll be fine. Beyond COVID, we want to invite the partners that we are engaged with tonight in a more interactive discussion around the challenges that we have in the industry. And the challenges are for the bar owners, let us operate the business. In fact, for us in Nakada, these are investors. And we want to work with them And what we are encouraging is that they should actually indulge in self-regulation so that they can be able to observe all the rules of the game. For the county government, we want to see them invest more in the campaign for a nation that is free from drug and substance abuse, invest in rehabs, and generally use the licensing mandate to regulate the mushrooming of these bars in the areas, and that is really what we want to see on them. For Kara, let us work together as we have been working, and we want to see them more aggressive in terms of discouraging bars within residential areas. This is what we want to see.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for making time for this discussion. Quite an enlightening debate around alcoholism. Of course, the safety measures we need to take into consideration. And we do appreciate even all the viewers who are joining us from home. We could not take all your questions. There was a question from Kisumu, from Julian Munga, a question from Augustine from Kisumu as well. We thank you so much for taking part in this debate. Remember, you can keep it alive on our Twitter platforms, that is at KTN News KE, and you can tweet me at Agina Abi. That's where we wrap it up, and thank you for your valid company. Stay safe and drink responsibly. Have a lovely evening.